Through a lot of my childhood, every summer, for 1 week, my parents would send me to this Pentecostal church camp. It was their favorite week of the year. As for me, it was also my favorite week of the year because I fucking loved going to church camp. And I became sort of a connoisseur. Like, I'm very nostalgic by nature, so going year after year after year, you kind of start to develop some standards and preferences. And for me, I kind of got it down to like a pretty tight formula of what the ideal week at church camp should be. A manual, if you will. So here's the basic formula. So by day, it should feel like pretty much your ordinary camp experience. There should be some like games, outdoor activities, like maybe a pond is involved. By night, it needs to turn into this like rowdy old-time religion revival. And that's the vibe. So it needs to happen in some kind of rustic old barn-like chapel where there's no insulation or air conditioning. It should smell like old wood and grass stains and like a bunch of preteens who haven't quite figured out deodorant yet. And there should be maybe like some kind of a ramshackle PA system with like an acoustic guitar and like a 10-year-old drummer and like the sound of 75 kids all singing at the top of their lungs. And by about like 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. or whenever the Holy Ghost decided we were done, all the children should be allowed to bust out of the chapel outside under the open air, sweaty, cooling off, and have the opportunity to gorge themselves on Snickers bars and Doritos under the stars. I was pretty sure that this is exactly what heaven would be like. And that was the formula, year after year. I don't make the rules. So eventually, I get to my 8th year of church camp, and I'm 17 years old. And by this point in my life, I've kind of like divested myself of a lot of the sort of Pentecostal superstitions that I've been raised with. But as far as the formula for the perfect week of church camp, I remained a rabid fundamentalist. The formula must not be changed. And I was ready to enjoy that old-time religion vibe at least one last time. Unfortunately, the powers that be had other ideas. And by the powers that be, I mean the adults who ran the camp. Because they decided that this year, my last year of camp, was the perfect year to introduce an entirely new camp director. And this was this random-ass dude who was like a youth pastor from some mega church in Florida that they like shipped in as a hired gun. The guy knew nothing about the formula. He called himself GW. And from the start, GW was basically on a holy mission to make our camp cool. So, I wish I could tell you what GW looked like, by the way, but for whatever reason, my brain has just deleted every single image of GW and replaced them all with Guy Fieri. He must have looked at least a little bit like Guy Fieri. So for the rest of this story, feel free to just like imagine, just cast Guy Fieri as GW henceforth. So as camp director, Guy Fieri, or GW's first act, was to give our chapel, our beloved rustic old chapel, a glow up, a little remodel that it absolutely did not need. So he brought in like all these lava lamps and laser lights, and there was this like rustic, like charming cross that was on the stage in the chapel, and he mounted this like garish colored stage light on the cross itself. I came to refer to it as the crucified green light. Hated the whole situation. There were songs that we knew that we would sing every year that GW replaced, he just like cleared all the songs we usually did. We didn't do any of them. We would just sing like whatever songs were kind of topping the charts at his Florida mega church at the time. And every night when we would arrive for chapel, we would all be welcomed by the dulcet tones of Christian rap metal just blasting through the PA system. So I was depressed all week long. And like I kind of felt like I was living through the second act of the 1993 film Heavyweights. Like I was Gerald Garner writing a letter home about how camp is going, and GW was Ben Stiller just like destroying everything that made our camp special. So I was very unhappy. Until the last day of camp, and this is the last day of my last week in my last year of camp, when something happened that neither myself nor GW could have ever possibly anticipated. A miracle. Because about 300 miles away from our camp, which was in upstate New York, about 300 miles away from there, in a little town called Walton Hills, Ohio, a single tree and a single tree branch, as if moved by the hand of God, lowered itself down until it made contact with a set of power lines. And when it did, it triggered a power outage in the local station in Walton Hills, Ohio. And because of a software bug that was prevalent throughout the United States in power stations at the time, the outage at that station triggered an outage in another station, and another, and another, and another, until 55 million people in the Northeast United States were suddenly without power. It was the largest blackout in the history of the world. In New York City that day, ice cream suddenly became free because there was no way to keep it cold, so they just had to get rid of it. And miles away in upstate New York at our little camp, every single one of GW's laser lights and lava lamps and even the crucified green light suddenly went dead as a doornail. And all we had left that night was acoustic guitar and hand claps and the voices of angsty teens. And when that service was done, all of us busted out into the night and found that the sky was putting on this light show, the likes of which most humans have not seen since the invention of light pollution. It was the Milky Way galaxy in like 4,000K HD, and about 1 million more stars than you could ever expect to see on any ordinary night. It was gorgeous. And as I looked up at this ancient brilliance above me, this oldest of old-time religions, I knew with all my heart and everything inside of me that GW didn't know shit about camp. And that God agreed with me.